I call Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I was able to participate on the select committee that considered this bill, and I want to thank the committee and Ruth Dyson for her chairing of that committee. The committee took a very practical approach to the issues, which have over a number of years been very, very hotly debated within committees in various forms and in the public, and for which the public has a real interest in transparency and their confidence that MPs will not be the deciders of the perks that that we might have, that there is real transparency in the process for how it's decided, and some real independence. And so it was good to be part of that discussion. It's also true that we worked very hard to the Greens put up some real arguments about the changes to the bill that we did not agree to. We did not agree with the submission from the Clerk of the House, which was to change the bill so that the travel services for members of Parliament would be retained by the Speaker of the House. The decision-making would be retained by the Speaker of the House. We don't agree with that position. We put that position to the Select Committee. We spent some weeks discussing whether that was the right or wrong thing to do. What I was really pleased about as a member of the committee and in those discussions is that there was, regardless of the fact that I lost the debate on that particular issue, there's no doubt been a shift in the way that MPs' allowances and those that might affect their families are being decided. They are being decided more independently as a result of this legislation. And that's a good thing. It's good to support progress when we make progress, because Lord knows anybody who's been watching this debate over the last, 5, 6, 10 years now, that there can be a lot of heat and very, very little light when it comes to the issues of MPs' expenses and allowances. So we have been, I would also just say, sir, that we have put forward, the Greens Party has put forward an SOP on this legislation. And I think all members understand that select committees are not the arbiters of the final form of legislation. In fact, the Parliament is. And the Parliament agreed at first reading that this bill ought to include the provision for the Remuneration Authority to decide on the travel services for MPs. And we are quite prepared, and we think it's our responsibility to put that proposition back to the Parliament as a whole, even though the Select Committee decided in the end, for understandable reasons, to take it out. So we have the SOP on the table, and that's what we're going to do, absolutely. So yes, it does answer Ms Mellow's question. So, Mr Speaker, the Greens have been champions for transparency for well over 10 years now. It was started by the Rod Donald, our lovely co-leader, and the call for transparency and reform in MPs' pay and allowances, our campaign on these issues has led to real change, and I think that's been really significant. We now have MPs' travel and accommodation that is disclosed publicly every quarter, and that followed the Green Party campaign in 2009, where we made our own commitment to that disclosure. And I do want to just recognise Speaker Lockwood Smith, who took the model that the Green Party was using and had proposed and applied that across the board to all MPs. So now we do have that disclosure. At the time of that debate about whether it should apply to everybody, there was enormous resistance from MPs. There was a great deal of fear that if this information was disclosed, MPs would suffer month after month attacks and public attacks and attacks in the media and about the money that was being spent. And what we have seen over time is that it is of interest to some people, and some people may comment, but the fact of the transparency has given the public some confidence, at least, that we are prepared to tell them what it is we're doing. And so all of the heat that was initially in that debate and all of the fear that MPs expressed over that disclosure was ultimately shown to be untrue. Part of the difficulty, sir, we have around the decision that the Select Committee made to keep the decisions around travel allowances with the Speaker is that the argument for that too was an argument around fear and mistrust. that the Remuneration Authority wouldn't understand the travel requirements of MPs, might make changes to those allowances that would not give MPs the ability to be able to come to Parliament to do their work here or to be able to travel to other places to do their work there. There was a great sense, I think, of mistrust in that debate, and that mistrust is just not justified. And I think in all of the work that we've done to try to reform our allowances and remuneration systems, that we have been proven time and time again that the public want to know, but they also understand that we do an important job and need the resources to do it. The Remuneration Authority does take these issues seriously and won't make unnecessary reform, and there is no justification for that fear or mistrust. So that is one other reason why we are bringing back to the Parliament the ability to decide to move the travel allowances to the Remuneration Authority rather than keep them with the Speaker. We're also very pleased with the bill to the extent that it was a step towards putting in practice, I guess, a motion that I had put to the Parliamentary Services Commission some time before. I put a motion to the Parliamentary Services Commission that we advised the Speaker to establish an independent body to review MPs' expenses and allowances, including travel allowances, with a view to the separation of what is personal and what is genuinely parliamentary, and that an independent body be established or be identified whose role would be to set MPs' allowances and expenses, including travel. So to the extent that this bill actually was part of that debate, and that there was an open opportunity for the public to have a say about independence and the separation between personal and parliamentary, that we were able to hear very directly the views of the Clerk of the House, who keeps her views to herself most of the time. She too had an open opportunity to express what she thought about these changes. We went some way towards genuinely having an open debate about it. So we were very pleased to see that that process happened, because at the Parliamentary Services Commission, of course, my motion to have those two things happen was declined by the MPs who were there. So we are seeing slow but continual change, and that is why we will support the bill. So, Mr Speaker, I would note that the Law Commission also supports our position of having the travel allowances moved out of the decision-making of the Speaker to the Remuneration Authority, and that they expressed some disappointment that the bill that's come back doesn't do that. Again, I think what we're seeing here is an evolutionary process of change, that we are trying as best as possible to take as many people, as any MPs actually, as we can, the whole parliamentary system, with us on the debate to genuine transformation and independence. That will take some time, and is taking quite a bit of time. It's been, 4 years since the 2009 debate on transparency. So it's good to see progress, albeit that it is slow. Mr Speaker, we too are very pleased to see the bill recognises the need to have independent funding for those who have impairments, to make sure that an MP who has an impairment is in no way prejudiced in their ability to engage in their duties simply because of that impairment. And as Ruth Dyson quite rightly said, this is about making sure all New Zealanders, and there are hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders with all sorts of different kinds of impairments, that may lead them to feel that that they have no role or place in the Parliament, that they have no role in the decision-making at this most highest level. And so every step we take to make it clear to our community that they deserve to be genuinely represented, and represented by members of their own community in this place, to have their own voices heard in this place, is critically important. So we were very pleased to see that we could make a change in this bill that expressly provided for MPs with impairments, and we are seeing that in other parts of the reform around parliamentary services too, as more and more MPs and as the system itself becomes more aware of the need to be open to accessibility issues. And again, this is an evolutionary process. We are seeing this change slowly happen, but very pleased that it is. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Call Colonel Jit Singh Bakshi.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.